Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. This is the show where we talk to accomplished sport business professionals who come here to share their knowledge, experience, tips, and advice in order to help you succeed in your career. My name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport. And if you don't know iWorkinSport, we're a platform made to help you boost your career in sport. So we connect talents and recruiters, especially, but not only through a series of events, digital and in person, while we also promote career growth and education, always in sport. Here's a link so you can check us out, of course, in our website, also our social media channels. By the way, we do have an event coming up as well. This is the Education Virtual Expo that will take place from the 6th to the 8th of April. If you want to meet representatives and alumni from some of the best programs in the world, you can't miss it. It's free. Just go to the link in the description and register. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. And yeah, let me thank you all who are here today. You know the drill. We would really enjoy if you participate, write your comments, ask your questions. Normally the best questions come from you, really, not from me. If it's possible, I always ask, if you can support the channel, hit that like button as well, or subscribe if you like that type of content. And yeah, that would be super appreciated. Let me introduce my special guest of the day. So Saam Momen is, a longtime friend of mine, a great guy, and but that's not why he's in the show. He's here because he is an accomplished professional with more than 15 years of experience in sport, primarily in football. He has worked at UEFA for many, many years. As a full-time employee, and now as a consultant, and also as a venue director for the Champions League matches. He also worked with some of the biggest sports marketing agencies in the world, such as CSM and Team Marketing. He is an alumnus of the AISTS, which, by the way, will be at the Education Virtual Expo, and he is an active member of the Harvard Alumni Angels in Brazil. So he recently has embraced his entrepreneurial spirit and launched the Sports Executive Path, which is a platform in which he teaches in a series of online courses, among other things, how to enter in the sports industry. I also put the link for that in the description. I really recommend you go and check that out. And yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about many things, about how one can start a job in sports in 2021. I know that's not easy, but let's see what he has to say. Some trends of the market and how to start a business in 2021, which is what he is doing now. So let me get some here in the show. Saam Momen, welcome. How are you?
Hi, João. Good afternoon and good morning, good evening to whoever is watching us from wherever you're watching us. I am extremely delighted and happy to be here today with you. Not only because, as you mentioned, we are friends for over a decade now, and also to see how iWorkinSport has grown up from a simple idea not many years ago, and where you have achieved where you are. I really admire your courage, your knowledge, your will to make iWorkinSport better. And I am extremely happy to be here and share my thoughts to whoever wants to listen after all.
Thank you, Saam. So let us know where you're watching from. So we do have sort of a banner here to show someone. Oh yeah, there you go. Please Let us know where you're watching from. I know that is a very international crowd normally. And Sam, I think before we go, we jump to the questions. Give us a summary of your career. So, how did you end up working at, as I mentioned, at UEFA, and now doing the things that you do? You've been working in sport for a long time. Let us know.
Yes. Well, as you've mentioned, I've now more than 16 years now in the world of sports. I think that I'm actually going to even start before the Masters, which was really a turning point. And I think it's also very interesting for people who are watching, listening. I actually started as a volunteer back in 2003. And this is probably one of the best ways to actually enter in the world of sports. And we can obviously talk about it later. I was a volunteer in the Surf International Federation in one of their legs in Brazil. And then I went as a volunteer also in the beach volleyball, both working in translation, the beach volleyball in the Stade, actually in Switzerland, both of them working with athletes and translations and simple gigs here and there. And then eventually I entered into a master's, which you have mentioned, the AISTS. Back then it was only the second year of the master's. It was actually the first full year with 30 students. And I obviously learned a lot. And I'm happy for what I did, what I studied, and the career that ultimately I built. So from ISTS, during the ISTS, it's obligatory to actually do an internship, and I did it. At the time, it was the London 2012 bid committee, so we were still fighting with Madrid, New York, Paris, and Moscow to actually see who would host the Olympics. And lucky for us, the Londoners, we managed to bring the Olympic Games to London. And now it's 9 years ago, and it was definitely a very successful one. From there, I eventually graduated in ISTS, and I got a job at UEFA. I worked 8 years straight there. So I'm talking about, I started at UEFA in 2005 and worked until the end of 2012. Worked in 2 different units. I started my first 4-year spell there at the match operations, dealing with clubs. It was always the club competitions. So I was dealing with the registry of players, the approval of kits, the helping the teams to obtain visas, and all this operational functions that is required to actually take part in the Champions League and in Europa League. And then from those 4 years, I was promoted to becoming a football and regulations manager, where I was then responsible for the draw, the coefficient, the calendar, obviously the regulations. And I stayed there for another 4 years. And I really enjoyed my ride there. I learned a lot at UEFA. Then at the end of 2012, the World Cup and the Olympics were going to happen in Brazil. So I said, it's time to move to my home country. For those who don't know, I am a mix of countries, but I am Brazilian at heart. And I eventually moved to Brazil to a sports marketing agency called CSM, which is a British one. And I worked in a position of special projects. So I was involved in many different projects in the World Cup and the Olympic from the marketing side of it. So I left operations to work mostly on marketing. And in CSM, I worked with a lot of brands, a lot of activations. The most memorable ones were the Coca-Cola Trophy Tour, where I helped to build the brand ambassador program for them. We were the foot in the ground for the Australian Football Federation during the World Cup. During the Olympic Games, I worked closely with Visa for their ambassador program as well. And there were a dozen of different projects, activations, and And I can say that I learned a lot during this period. It was a fantastic period for myself. But then the party was over after 2016. So I decided to move back to Europe in 2017. And with the experience that I gained, I decided to become a freelancer, a consultant, and work in several different projects in the sports industry. I am currently a football operations specialist at UEFA, which means that I am allocated to different operational jobs, and you named one in the introduction, which is becoming a venue director, where you are assigned every year operationally to help out one of the clubs. So this year I was in Real Madrid and Atletico de Madrid. Previous years I was in Arsenal, Juventus, and so on. I've worked with team marketing in projects of expanding the Champions League outside of Europe. I have worked with brands to help find ambassadors to help them work. And to finally today, where I am currently working with a unit at UEFA called Team Services. So I'm working for 6 months in a project delivering the Euro 2020. We are helping out all the participating associations to logistically try and make the smoothest path to enter UEFA at the competition, and ultimately to have a successful competition. So that's my
Wow.
introduction. I'm sorry if it was too long, but
that's a lot. So now you have to explain, because people are tuning in. They look at you and say, "Oh, that guy has like 18 years old, or maybe 20."
Thank you.
You've been doing that for a while.
Yes, I've been. All this was 16 years of career. I am in my 40s, as we are, João, in our 40s. But still looking young, hopefully, and with a lot to give back to the sports community.
Sam, before I go to the next question, just a shout out to everyone who's saying sort of hi here. Erica, just in the next door. Barnabas from Hungary. You have a fan in Brazil as well, in Santos. Natalia in Germany. Christy here in Lausanne, also doing the AISTS. Now, so Sam, I think you're a role model there. Another good friend of ours, a partner of me.
Great.
Worlds.
Many worlds travels with him. Yes. Hi, Marcelo.
Right. Marcelo here, another Hassan in Berlin. There is another one from LinkedIn in India. Then Raul in India as well.
Nice.
We have Humberto Grande Betinho in Brazil. Paulo, I think, is in Canada. Jesus in France. Zaka.
Wow. Nice.
Celine in Paris. Hello, Celine. And at the moment as well, Aldo Oviedo in Peru. I think we span through pretty much all continents.
All continents. Thank you.
We're missing New Zealand or Australia. They might be asleep right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sam, so I went to your brand new website that people can check. Again, we put the link in the description there. And you say in the website that you got motivated to create the sports executive path by the many messages you got from people asking you how to enter the sport industry. So what is the current state of the sports job markets in your view?
Yes, well, João, I eventually didn't mention, obviously, the creation of the sports executive path. We're going to talk about it later, and the inspirations and so on. Answering your question, it is currently in a difficult environment, I would say, the sports world, and not only the sports world, many industries which are currently working in the service industry are being affected. We are obviously, for those watching it later, in the midst of a world pandemic, and the sports world has been hit hard. Why? Obviously, because public is not allowed into sports arena. The demand for live sports has obviously gone down, not in terms of views, but in terms of participation, of course. And there is all the problems that come with it. But at the same time, there are opportunities. Whenever there are crises, there are opportunities. And for me, one of the great things that I've seen with many projects that I'm listening about, and obviously the ones that I'm working, is the digital environment. If we have to say, one of the things that the pandemic has done is to trigger this this new environment of the digital world. Let's put it this way. It has anticipated some of the trends that maybe would have happened later on. And we now currently see many meetings being hosted remotely, new technologies being discussed and implemented. And in the sports world, we literally had to reinvent ourselves. We had to reinvent ourselves by implementing new protocols for players and, well, for athletes or coaches or whoever eventually takes part of a competition. So that in itself has required a lot of work from many sports entities around the world. And it is still a very ongoing work, because protocols in different countries change the whole time, and things do get changed last minute every time. Now, opportunities in sports currently are slow. It is a market which had a fantastic boom in the past, I would say, 20 to 30 years. And every single year until the pandemic, it was on a growth. We reached last year over, and it depends on the different studies, we're talking of a market worldwide of over $500 billion, which is a very considerable chunk, even on a world scale of all the industries. So right now we are in a moment where we are still learning about what is happening. We are implementing what we think is the best things to implement, and we're going to bounce, but I have no doubt at all that we're going to bounce much stronger. If one thing this pandemic showed is that we need interaction with people. It's that we like to be with others, and nothing better than a sport event to be connected, to create the togetherness, and to make sure that you have a purpose. And the purpose can be your sports team. It can be what the sports team represent to you, what it represents when the connections you created with your families, your ties, and so on. So that is going to bounce back, although now we are in an important point in history, I would say.
100%, yeah, for sure. And Sam, what do you think are the most sought after skills in the sports industry at the moment? So there are not many hirings happening at the moment, but where do you feel that people have more chances to start working?
I touched briefly the digital. Yeah. I mean, right now, again, this is a complicated moment, and I think that everybody knows. I don't need to go too deep into it. What is coming as something that I am watching and listening and looking is what we can do with the digital environment. And when I'm talking about digital environment, I'm not talking about social media and things like that. I'm really thinking about what can we help the sports industry to actually develop and grow and make it more interesting for the fans out there. So when I'm speaking about the digital side, I think that there is a lot of opportunities in things that aren't currently used a lot. They are used, but they need still to be much better than they are today. And I can give examples of virtual reality, of augmented reality, of artificial intelligence, and not artificial intelligence in the sense of computer bots thinking and so on. It's the artificial intelligence where data is so important, and data is a trend which has been happening in the past, and definitely which is growing and being even placed more and more in several different areas. Right in the beginning, we thought about data for sports on how the athletes could better perform, or how the coaches could better guide their performances and so on. But nowadays, the data has come to us working in the world of sports. It's gathering all the information we can to make sure that we know who we target when we're talking about marketing, when we're talking about engagement, when we're talking about who we want to bring to actually watch the sports. And all this information needs to be compiled, needs to be gathered, because historically we have a lot of data. Now what we need is to get all this data, present it, digest it, and make sure that we understand the patterns in the future. So answering your question, I think this digital side of it is very important, and operationally it will bounce back.
Yeah, cool, Sam. Thank you for that. There's already a question here. Here it doesn't say his name, but checking here on the phone, it's Sanket Kulkarni in India, I think. Apologize, but his question is if he has played football at national level in India. Congratulations. And an electronics engineer. Can you suggest a good sports scholarship for masters in sport? I want to thank as well Tomislav Pusic, I think I said your name correctly, who also suggested a master's in Norway, I think. But Sam, do you have any advice?
Yeah. Well, in terms of sports or scholarships, I think that every master's, in one way or another, they offer some kind of help and some kind of assistance in whatever way they can. I know, for example, the sports masters that I did, AISTS, they do have a scholarship. I'm not sure, João, if the FIFA masters they do.
Yeah, no, the AISTS does, and as you said, many of these programs offer possibility to scholarships. What I'll say, Sanket, is the event that we're organizing in just over a month in April. It's digital, it's free to attend, and you'll be able to meet about 10 or 15 of these programs all over the world, including in India, but also in the US, in Europe. In-person programs, masters, some will be there. The sports executive path will have a booth there as well with online programs. But many of these masters will be there, so I suggest you attend. It's free, and many of them offer scholarships, and some of them especially for former athletes, like it's your case.
Exactly. So, I mean, you are the expert, João, in this field when it comes with sports scholarships and sports education. So I couldn't say more than you.
There's a nice segue here for a topic that I wanted to ask you about, which is a few weeks ago, you published a very nice article in our insights area, brand new insights area in the iWorkinSport site, talking about 5 reasons to study sports management. So do you want to recap what those 5 reasons are?
Yes.
If you want to read in depth there, but maybe if you have
no. I mean, I do remember. one of the points was that I mean, I really think that if you want to enter and delve into the world of sports, one of the easiest ways is indeed to find a master's in sports. I am an example, João is an example, and I can list many other examples of people who didn't really have a strong background previously, did a master's in sports, and ended up having a career which they liked and they enjoyed. One of the benefits that I think of studying sports management is that you actually start from, when we talk about sports and I have a dream of working in the sports world, you have an idea. But when you really study sports management, you actually get an insight of all the different careers that sports can actually give to you. You can, for example, be or have a career in law and work in sports, so the legal side of it's important. The medicine in sports and all the different areas going from nutrition to psychology and everything that comes with that world. And obviously the most traditional ones like marketing, like operations. So I think the first thing that the studying sports management gives is, wow, this is all the jobs that I can work. I can work in football, for example. I can work in a club, but I can also work in an international federation like the UEFA, like FIFA. I can work in a national association like the FA of England or of Holland, or I can actually work in Nike and Adidas in an area of football. So the sports industry is very, very big. And I think that having a clearer view of what you actually like is very important, so that also you can find what are truly your passion. So that's one thing which I think it's very important. The other thing is that you actually have in-depth knowledge of the sports industry. I mean, we are saying that these masters, or we're assuming that they are at least 1 year, and the classes that you are learning and the things that you're being taught, you are actually going to use it in your career. You're not only studying because you're studying, you're actually gaining knowledge. And for example, I know that the FIFA Masters divides their curriculum into sociology or humanitarian, legal, and finance or economics. And I know that the AISTS does these three and include technology and medicine. So you have a broader and wider view and aspects of things which are very useful to your day-to-day after all. Then I think there is more of an obvious thing, which is turning your passion, because everybody who starts or wants to work in sports, they have a passion for sports, either for their sports team or for sports itself. And I think that what studying and what makes the beauty of sports management is to actually turn your passion into a career, and actually being able then to bring back whatever you've learned into sports. Then I think I wrote the article maybe with a vision of the future and maybe with the trends of the past, but it was, and I'm 100% sure that it will be, an industry that is consistently growing. It is an industry which right now obviously is suffering because of the pandemic, but it will bounce back. And during the past 20 years, and definitely all my career, I have seen from something that was already beginning to something which is quite spectacular. And I can give examples of many things. I can see that, for example, how much money has poured into sports. It's out of this world. We can go with, obviously, the highest salaries in sports are scary. We can go to little things where the person who is most followed in the world is a sports personality, which is Cristiano Ronaldo. We can go into simple details of when I started at UEFA back in 2005, we were only 120 people working in one building. Now it's 600 people in 3 buildings and growing. And I can go into so many different aspects of how sports is growing. Obviously, I'm talking about the top tier, also in the bottom and mid tiers, it's growing everywhere.
Including some completely new areas for people that are entering the sport or studying sports or coming to work in these areas. For instance, esports is something that didn't exist when we started our journey, and now it is an industry that, of course, grew during the pandemic, but not because of that. It was already growing before, so there are opportunities. Now, there's a few questions arriving here. There's Tomislav sent one, and Danielle sent another question. We'll get to that in a second. But we mentioned the sports executive path a few times. Could you maybe explain to people watching what it is exactly?
Yeah, sure. So maybe a little bit of history before I go to what it is in itself. Especially in my LinkedIn, I did receive, and I do receive many people asking me tips to enter the sports world, job opportunities, how they can manage or how do they enter. And basically, I would obviously reply and mention that this is the way, this is what you should be doing, and how things should be set. And I realized that I was doing this over and over and over again. Partly these questions came, obviously, because I am working in the sports industry, but also because I teach in different courses and I give classes. So it's normal for people also to ask if I could help and where to start and how to, where can I begin? And after going through all these messages that I replied, after going through everything that I was replying, I said, listen, there must be a better way for me to communicate to everyone, to make sure that everybody understands and everybody who is trying to enter into this industry can have a more structured way, that I don't reply to one this way, the other person this way. So I decided I initially started with one course, which was how to start or how to find a job in European football, which was my first course in the sports executive world, and I uploaded it in Udemy. So that was my first course, and I realized that it got traction, and a lot of people eventually bought the course, and I got a lot of people liking the content. And then I decided to do a second course in sports marketing, and then I decided actually to make it something serious and something which I thought, listen, there is actually a business opportunity here, not only in terms of transferring the knowledge, but also creating something. So after creating 4 or 5 courses that goes through innovation or goes through sponsorship and everything that I ultimately worked in the last 15 years, and I was always uploading it in Udemy, and I was gaining, and I was seeing that there were repeated people buying different courses and so on. I decided then to actually create my own website, my own platform, where the link I think is below. It's www.thesportexec.com. And there I decided actually to change my revenue model, maintaining obviously the content and actually increasing the content to my own platform, where instead of you buying just one specific course and paying for it, you sign up for a monthly fee or an annual fee, and you have access to all the courses which are in the platform. There are currently 12 courses, and I have a personal goal to provide a new course every month. So I'm uploading content every month, different content. The courses are about between 3 and 4 hours each. They are recorded and they are presented there. So I've gone through game day operations. I've gone through sports events and facility. As I said, sports marketing, how to enter the sports industry. So I've got a huge bunch of different courses up there. And then I created a blog where I post a new insight, as you call it, every week. Very short, people can read through. And on top of it, the site, which does not have in Udemy, all my courses, I transform it into an ebook. So it's an ebook of about 40 to 50 pages, very well designed. I actually work together with a branding agency called A Friend. They are also excellent and very good. And they do all the branding and everything which goes around the courses that I put together. So answering it
register,
shortly, it's our website. Sorry?
To register, say the link again, the sports exec.
It's thesportexec.com.
Okay.
Thesportexec.com.
Okay. We included the link as well in the description if you want to just go there and click it. What was the biggest challenge for you to create this business?
Well, the biggest challenge is obviously I am putting myself out there for once, in the sense that I am actually trying to give back something to after all these years that I've been learning. The challenges are many. Are obviously that I have never created a course before, that I've never launched a website before, that I've never put all this together before, and that I am also forcing myself to create a new course every month, which generates a lot of thinking, a lot of time, and a lot of effort to put all of this together. So I can go with everything, but one very important thing is that I learn every day. I learn every day.
What is the most important lesson that you learned so far in the process?
Well, definitely the most important lesson was I actually did even explained in my introduction, was the moment that I realized that, hey, maybe if you make this a subscription rather than an individual sales, that can actually benefit more the students, and they will pay less because they don't need to buy individually all the courses, and that they can. And if I can provide more knowledge and more things in my platform, and if people there can share the questions they have and whatever they feel makes sense, it is better for me as an instructor, and it is better for whoever is learning, where they can actually, maybe they're not interested in the 12 courses, but if you are into the sports world, for sure, you're going to find at least a few which are interesting to learn. So for me to have the insight of actually changing my business model was quite important, and the help that I gained from 2 agencies to put this together, which is one agency who actually develops the site and the other who does the branding, develops the site and now the social media, are very important for the current development of the site. Cool.
Sam, questions from the audience here before I shout out to I always struggle with you've been here before. Tonatio Barreto in Boston, and Aida Russi in Angra dos Reis, Brazil. It's easier for me to say. Great to see you here. Daniel dos Santos from Portugal, but now in Switzerland. I think he's actually Swiss as well. Wanted to know what sets you aside from the competition, Sam, and what actions you recommend taking to be successful in the sports industry?
That is a deep question. Then very deep question. I always tend to say that one of the things which is very important in the sports industry, and I'm not going to run away from this question. I'm just going to set it a little bit aside, and I'll come back to it. The sports industry, although it has billions, although it has a lot of people who are interested in entering, it is still a very, very small industry per se, especially if you speak in the top part of it. Everybody knows each other. If you work in a football club, you will probably know someone who works in another industry. So it is kind of almost a very closed circuit in the sense. And that in another sense, it's also why it is difficult to enter the sports industry. It is a small community, and obviously, it's not that small, but it is a small community compared with other industries. And to crack in the sports industry is tough. And that's why you study, that's why you try to do network, that's why you try to do all of these, you try to do volunteering so that someone knows and someone can help you and someone can do it. Because wanting it or not, whenever there is a job post in FIFA and UEFA and IOC and these big clubs, there are hundreds of applicants. There are hundreds. So how is your application going to get there? It is by maybe someone who knows or someone that can help to at least put your CV in the HR and that you are seen and so on. So that's one thing which is important to say. So that it comes to answering Daniel's question, I think that having a good reputation in the sports industry is very important. And what does a good reputation mean? Because it's a small world, people talk about each other. People see what other people do. People share experience. People say this, say that. I know that many of my projects, or some of my projects, have come from mouth to mouth of people that I've never seen before. They send me a LinkedIn message. I heard from such and such that you are good on doing this and that, and maybe is it possible for you to help us in this project or do this or do that? And I think that trying to have a positive mark, and then it comes to obviously your skills, your talents, or what maybe sets me aside is I know how to organize my ideas and I know how to implement them. And I think that obviously was very useful for my operational skills on my operational roles and jobs. And then on the marketing side of it is having maybe the vision of how trends are going and how things can be assembled and how more people will connect with whatever you are proposing, whatever activations they are. So I'm not sure I answered the questions, but maybe these are the things.
No, I think you did. You did. Danielle, let me know if he answered your question. Tomislav Pusic, I'm trying my best. I also have an industry-related question. During COVID-19, it's really hard to find internships, especially in football, and connected to CSR or corporate social responsibility. Do you have any suggestions which organizations or clubs I could reach to in Europe mostly?
Tomislav, this is the million-dollar question. I have myself spoken with many students who are currently doing different master's program, and they are struggling and they're asking these questions, and it is very, very difficult. I am not the one who's going to come here with a magic wand and say this is what you should do and you're going to get a job, especially because there are two things which I think studying is very important for, which is the networking and which is the knowledge that you gain. And I insist on talking a lot about networking because I know how closed the sports world is. And to answer Tomislav's question, I'm assuming that he is maybe already a student of a sports management course, because if you're not, that would be the first thing that I would say. Enjoy now the moments that it is difficult to enter, to actually study, to gain knowledge, to make sure that you know about whatever there is to know about the industry, because in a year time or whenever, it's going to bounce back, and it's going to bounce back strongly. Now, currently, what I would do as a student, I would just hit the most people I know of in LinkedIn, and I would just ask, can I have a chat with you? And that's it. There isn't nothing that you can do. You cannot come and send CVs to clubs, because if one thing they are doing is actually cutting costs, unless the job is obviously out there, everybody's trying to cut costs. But if you go out there and try to talk to people, try to make so that people know who you are, try to connect, try to have Zoom calls, Teams calls, or whatever, people, whenever jobs open, they will think, I had this very interesting talk with this guy, maybe he's still available, and here you go. Because right now, I mean, we are in a pandemic. Depending where you are, we are in lockdowns. So it's very difficult to actually give something to say, but make yourself digitally present, being by connecting with whoever you think is relevant. Put down 10 names you think are relevant in the sports industry and send them messages. Send them, listen, I admire your CV. Would you be able to have a 20-minute chat with me, because I'm interested to hear you? And then you see what happens. And there isn't much more that I can say.
Cool. I agree with everything that Sam said. And if I can add to that, since you're interested in corporate social responsibility, I think, of course, you've probably been doing search on Google about that. What are the projects or sports projects and football projects about it? Don't know if you came across a consultancy company called Shuri Cade Consulting. They have a product called Responsible, as in responsive, but then ball, as in football. They do great work, been doing great work for many years, measuring corporate social responsibility index, or created an index for many football clubs. So I don't know if they're hiring. I don't know if they need an intern at the moment, but definitely check them out. See the reports. Perhaps that will point you in good direction as well. Or if you reach out to them as well, they might have even better advice in that area. So I suggest you do check them out. There's a few more questions coming here. So you actually answered Daniel's question. He says, let me see from the car. Says hi. And Tonatio Barreto, who says I said his name correctly, says sometimes changing your strategy is difficult because your old model is already embedded in with your customers. How did you adapt and help your audience adapt to the change? Was it difficult?
This is also a quite good question. But I think that there is one important point to this question. It is not only us sports managers who are adapting to the customers. It is the customers as well that are adapting to us, in the sense that this pandemic has hit everyone. This pandemic has different industries have been affected differently, of course, and the sports industry was one of the affected ones. But when we say about adapting the customers are very ready to receive whatever is being proposed to or proposed out there. They understand that they can, talking about fans, They understand that they cannot go to a stadium. So whatever is being thought about, whatever is being brought into the industry is something that our customers or the customers are being very receptive to. It's not something that we are forcing, or it's not something that we are introducing, and it's changing their well, it is changing their habits, but it is a change that they are also they are very receptive to do. So I think they're in a traditional old way, the customers, yes, they would come to change, like, why are you changing this, or why are you doing this? I preferred the old model, or I was adapted to what was done in the past. But now it's like, either you do this, or you watch the sports like this, or you consume, or you interact like this, or you won't be able to interact. You won't be able to consume, because the same way as you customers were affected, us sports managers were also affected. And we are here giving our best and doing our best to make sure that everything is as close to as possible to what was the past. And examples are there, watching a football game, and they put those sound effects of like crowd cheers and so on. There are people that hate it, and there are people that like it. But at least it's the sports industry trying to get something of what was in the past and trying to adapt and making you feel closer to what it was in the past. And I can obviously give other examples, but at the end of the day, we are trying to adapt with whatever there is in our tools, because nobody, if someone actually saw this or saw that this was going to happen, they're probably lying, and we were all caught by surprise.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks a lot. So just so you know, Tomislav, I really enjoyed the previous answer. I thought it was very encouraging. Tonatiuh also said that at least the previous one was great. Don't know about this one. I think that was very good as well. Let me just, sorry, people here in the audience, they have preference, Sam. I do still have a few questions, a bit more personal now, about your career, some of your favorite moments. But here there's a topic that could be, take a whole 1 hour of webinar to talk about that. But if you could give your impressions very quickly. So Hassan Arkadas, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the live show. Thank you for being here, Hassan. Have two questions to Sam. The first one is, how do you see the future of OTT services in sport? Again, that can take the whole show, but try to be concise, because we're going to the last minutes of the show. And then secondly, from a business perspective, what's your opinion about blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin in relation to the sports industry? Yeah. You can write an essay, but
João, can you leave the question on just so that I can refer to it? Yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to be concise, Hassan, and also what I also like to be in everything that I do is to be honest and upfront. Meaning that I do not work in OTT services, nor I am involved in blockchain technology or cryptocurrency and deal with that on my day-to-day business. So I like to be upfront, because the answers that are coming from me is not the answer of an expert. And that's why sports is so fascinating, because there are millions of different fields, there are millions of different industries, and my specialization is operations, and it is marketing. But if you go to OTT, it would be more into the broadcasting world. And if you go into blockchain, yes, I can give what are my thoughts about it, but it's not my specialty. About OTT services, what I think then personally is that it is the future. And yes, there are many services coming, and people are signing up, and it is nice, and it is beautiful, and it's good. But I think that at some stage, this growth will reach to a point where the industry will need to be consolidated. Sam, I am getting more and more tired of having to sign up. And I'm going now to videos, mind you, sports, because it's a different monster. But it's already annoying to be in Netflix, to be in Disney, to be in Amazon Prime, to be in this, to be that. And I understand that these are the huge players. But if sports wants also to go into that, I want to sign up for the surf. I want to sign up for the tennis. I want to sign up for this. I want to sign up for that. It's something that will grow. But then again, you're talking about the future. I believe the future will be of a consolidation, of more a huge platform buying all these, and you can watch it everything in one place, which is in a certain way done in channels like The Zone and in others. But it's something that I think will be more consolidated. I'm trying to keep my answer simple. And then blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, I do think this, and this is something that I really do think is the future. It is the future in the sense that what people will want more is gaming, is to figure out ways on how to gain points or how to gain currency, on how to exchange this with benefits that you will have personally, being because whatever you said is going to be heard, being because of the amount of points or currency that you have gained or bought. You can buy things in the interactions that the sports industry creates. And esports is a perfect example of a platform where blockchain and cryptocurrency can develop, where people buy avatars and buy icons in football and buy persons to make their experience in the game better. This will happen with cryptocurrency, where people either put money and transform it into cryptocurrency, or whatever you do gains you cryptocurrency, and then you can have better interactions, being in a augmented reality environment, being in a virtual reality environment, where you can have access to different seats, where you can have access to different benefits in the sports world. So that's kind of where I will go.
Thank you, Sam. We're just getting close to the 1 hour mark here. If you have a few more minutes, I mean, you've been, I would like to ask you a couple of other questions. You've been someone that's been at Olympic Games, at World Cup, many UEFA final, Champions League finals, and others. What's your favorite, let's say, sporting moment?
Oof, my favorite sporting moment. Oof.
And I don't know if
that is a tough.
that was actually while you were working or not.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I'm going to talk about my favorite sports moment, it's better to speak one which I was there. Well, I mean, again, you said I've been to many Olympics, many World Cups, many Champions League final, and many events. I have good memories of. I was there when Phelps won his 8th gold medal in Beijing, which was very, very special in the water cube. I was there when Bolt won his final medals in the Rio Olympic, which also was quite an amazing moment. I was there in the Champions League final when Liverpool came back from a 3-0 defeat, and they drew the game, and eventually they won the Champions League. I was there when Liverpool again came back from losing the first 3-0 leg to Barcelona, and then they won 4-0 in Anfield, which was very special. But to come to my favorite moments, it has to be regarding my passion, my football club, which is Flamengo.
Ah, Flamengo.
And yeah, no, Liverpool. I don't have any club in Europe. I gave 2 examples of Liverpool, but I can give other examples of other clubs. I've been to hundreds of football matches in Champions League. But my favorite was in Lima, in Peru, in 2019, when Flamengo, my club, was losing 1-0 and at the 88th minute. And in 3 minutes, they managed to equalize and score the second goal. And I pretty much lost my mind. That was by far we became South American champion, and that was my personal favorite moment.
Good stuff. And looking back at your career, what do you think was your biggest achievement?
Well, my biggest achievement was to live my life the way I want, and I want to make this a point which is very exactly. I am someone who, if someone told me I am giving you a full-time job and I have been offered many, I have zero interest in have a full-time job anywhere. What I personally like is the independence that I have in being able to, if I want, travel for 3 months, 4 months, if I want to work in a project, if I want to do whatever I think is important for me. And that's how my biggest accomplishment came from having 8 years working at UEFA, for having 4 years strongly at CSM, and from then choosing what I want to do. If I want to work in this project, I will. I have said no to many other projects, and that's how I like my life to be ultimately managed. I have the things which are a priority in life, and work is not my main priority, and I am not afraid to say that, because my main priority are my family, my friends, traveling. I give that the same importance as working in sports. And but luckily I was able to find a model, and not only luck, I had the competence to actually find a model where I am able to travel to all the countries that and you know that I've traveled a lot. I have been able to be close to my family.
Countries?
How many countries? It's 104 now, 104 countries. So I do have a target of traveling to a different country. And now, obviously, because of pandemic, this is on hold. But as soon as I'm out of it, I will be traveling out there and making sure that I have a balance in my life.
Cool, Sam. Listen, thank you so much for doing that. Also, thanks to everyone that watched until now. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I was about to finish the interview, and then someone said, "Are you not going to ask him, to recommend a book?" So before someone asks me to do that, I will ask you myself: do you have a book or a podcast or a YouTube channel that you would like to recommend, or even all of that?
Well, João, this is an interesting one because I personally actually don't like to read, listen to podcasts, or watch YouTube channels in sports. No, wait, in sports. And do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because I think that I already dedicate so much of my time at my work and on my private and personal life talking about sports, that if I spend my free time on books, on podcasts, and on YouTube channels on sports, I become the most boring human being ever. Because everybody that knows me, you work at da da da. So what about this and that? So naturally, people start conversation about sports. My work is about sports. If on my free time I'm also on sports, I become boring. So I am very passionate about different kinds of things, of how to have a better lifestyle, about nutrition, about what you eat about. And on this kind, I can recommend different things. Like, I know that you share the passion about listening Smart Passive Income, a podcast that I would recommend, but it is not related to sports. But again,
you saw, actually, I do follow that show, and last week we have our website reviewed by the host, Pat Flynn. So we posted that on YouTube. If someone wants to check it out, I recommend it.
Good. So sorry to disappoint you and the viewers, I really don't have
You must have a book that you find it really good for your business or.
Well, for my life, I have one which is called the 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss. Actually, I would recommend his podcast as well. And I strongly believe that the philosophy that is presented in the book and the podcasts that he presents, and many other in the same line of trying to find a balance in your life. Because what people will realize once they enter in sports is that sport is a job like everything else. So you're going to have the same problems that everybody. It's not because you work in job is that your life is fantastic and it's amazing. So you will also need to find your balance once you are in the job world, to try and find whatever makes you happy, and that's what eventually makes me happy in the world outside of it. Having said this, João, I just want to go to answer this question, that I actually had to research books and podcasts to include on one of my courses. So I'm not going to give the answer. I'm going to tell people to actually watch the course about how to find work in European football. And there I actually give a few podcasts and books where I actually listened to a few episodes and read the books. Obviously, I'm not recommending without reading. And there you go. And I have read obviously books and listen to podcasts, but it's not something that I do frequently.
Okay. All right, Sam. Thank you so much. It was brilliant. I want to thank everybody that was watching us. Some don't go anywhere. Just want to send a last message to everyone and thank everybody that was here. Next week we have a very special guest as well that Sam knows super well as well. Another good friend, Jair Bertoni, Director of Member Association at FIFA, will be here with us, and also a good friend with lots of stories and to tell and great advice to share. I want to remind you that in about a month's time, from the 6th to the 8th of April, we're going to have the Education Virtual Expo happening. So if you're interested in learning more about courses, master's degrees in sport, this is a free to attend event. And in fact, if you're still here watching this with us and want to collaborate with us, we're engaging affiliate marketers that will help us promote that as well to a larger audience. And yeah, people can make money helping us out as well. So check out the iWorkinSport.com website for that. If you want to register to this, there is a link in the description of the video, or just go to iWorkinSport.com/EVE for Education Virtual Expo. And yes, if you enjoy this, it's great if you could hit the like button there, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell sign to receive the notifications of upcoming videos. And that was great. So Sam, again, thanks a lot. And I hope to see you soon, my friend.
Thank you, João. I will be going to Switzerland hopefully in May. So I do hope to see you. I'm not sure I can give you a hug, but let's see how the pandemic
You want to play tennis again?
Oh, yes, let's do that for sure. I'm getting better at it.
Let's see. Okay,
yeah,
bye-bye.
Good. Take care and talk to you and see you soon.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.